The massive alien ship appeared over New York without warning. Its silver hull reflected the morning sunlight, casting strange shadows over the city below. Unlike the chaos such arrivals caused in movies, the people of Earth had grown used to alien vessels in the 5 years since first contact. Still, this ship was different, larger and more intimidating than the usual diplomatic vessels. Commander James Reed stood at attention in the UN's main conference room, watching the screens that showed the vessel's approach. At 45 years old, with graying hair and weather-worn features, he had seen enough in his military career to stay calm in unusual situations. But even his steady hands tightened slightly behind his back as he waited. "They're here ahead of schedule," General Williams said beside him, checking his watch. "The Galactic Council never arrives early. Something's wrong." Before Reed could respond, the air shimmed with the familiar purple glow of a teleportation beam. 3 aliens materialized in the center of the room. 2 of them were the usual diplomatic species, tall, slender beings with silvery skin that Earth now regularly dealt with. But the third one made Reed's combat instincts fire warning signals. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, with armor that seemed to shift colors like oil on water, the creature resembled what might happen if someone combined an earth mantis with a bear. Its 4 arms each carried different ceremonial weapons, and its compound eyes reflected the room's light in a rainbow of colors. "I am Supreme Commander Vale of the Galactic Defense Force." The large alien spoke, its translator making the words sound almost musical. "We come with urgency and purpose." Reed stepped forward as Earth's designated military liaison. "Welcome to Earth, Supreme Commander. We weren't expecting." "There is no time for pleasantries," Vale interrupted, mandibles clicking. "The galaxy faces a threat unlike any in the past 1,000 cycles. We require your species' assistance." The room grew quiet. In the 5 years since Earth joined the galactic community, they had mainly focused on trade and cultural exchange. The galactic military had shown little interest in humans, considering Earth a developing world. Vale's assistant projected a hologram showing various star systems. Red dots pulsed across the map, spreading like a virus. An unknown force approaches from the galactic rim. They have already destroyed 3 civilian worlds. Our standard forces. The commander paused, mandibles twitching in what Reed had learned was a sign of distress. "They prove insufficient." "And now you want our help?" General Williams asked, his voice carefully neutral. "I thought Earth was too primitive to contribute to galactic defense." "That was an error in judgment," Vale admitted. "We have studied your world extensively. Earth is classified as a death world, a planet so hostile that it should not produce intelligent life. Yet here you stand. Your species evolved despite gravity twice the galactic average, extreme temperature variations, high amounts of background radiation, and countless predators." Reed shared a look with Williams. They had heard this before. Alien amazement at Earth's harsh conditions. What humans considered normal was apparently hellish by galactic standards. "Your people are natural warriors," Vale continued. "You can survive conditions that would kill most species. You can lift weights that would crush others. Your endurance is unprecedented. But most importantly, the aliens' eyes seem to focus more intensely. You understand war in ways we do not. We understand peace too," Reed pointed out. "Peace is not what we need now." Vale's voice grew harder. "We need soldiers who can fight in conditions that would kill our troops. We need warriors who can think in chaos. We need Deathworlders." The hologram changed to show massive battle fleets. "Join the galactic military. Your species will be granted full membership in the Council. Your technology will advance centuries overnight. Your world will prosper." Reed watched the images of war playing out before him. Something felt wrong about this. The aliens had always seemed so advanced, so capable. Why did they suddenly need humans? "How long do we have to decide?" he asked. 3 Earth days, Vale replied. "Choose quickly, Commander Reed. The galaxy needs Earth's warriors." Do not let pride prevent you from accepting your species' true calling. As the aliens teleported away, Reed stood quietly, thinking. They weren't being told everything. That much was clear. And in his experience, rushing into a war without all the facts was the fastest way to get soldiers killed. "Get me everything we have on galactic military doctrine," he told his aide. "Something tells me we need to know a lot more before we answer this call." The Nevada desert stretched out under the morning sun, its dusty landscape dotted with military vehicles and equipment. Commander Reed watched as Vale and 3 other alien officials stepped out of their transport, their environmental suits glinting in the sunlight. Today was assessment day. "Your atmosphere is quite harsh," Vale commented, checking the readings on a wrist device. "The oxygen levels alone would intoxicate most species." "Welcome to Earth," Reed said with a small smile. "You wanted to see what humans can do. We've prepared several demonstrations." The first test was simple, a display of human strength. Private Tom Miller, a young soldier chosen for his average build, stepped forward. Following instructions, he picked up a metal bar and began doing pull-ups. The aliens watched, their recording devices humming. "Impossible," one of Vale's assistants muttered as Miller passed 30 repetitions without showing signs of tiring. "The gravity here should make such repeated movements exhausting." Next came the endurance test. A squad of 10 soldiers began running in full combat gear. The aliens expected them to stop after a few minutes. An hour later, the humans were still going. "Enough," Vale called out, mandibles clicking rapidly. "We understand your physical capabilities. Show us your combat skills." Reed nodded to the waiting instructors. 2 soldiers stepped into a marked area, carrying training weapons. What followed was a demonstration of hand-to-hand combat that made even Vale step back. "Such violence," another alien official whispered. "They attack with such speed, such precision." But it was the next demonstration that truly shocked them. The base's speakers blared an alarm, and chaos erupted. Smoke filled the air. Explosions echoed across the field. Soldiers rushed in all directions, some appearing to be wounded. "What's happening?" Vale demanded, all 4 arms reaching for weapons. "Just watch," Reed said calmly. In less than 2 minutes, the chaos transformed into ordered action. Medics reached the wounded with incredible speed. Combat teams set up defensive positions while simultaneously helping civilians, played by other soldiers, reach safety. Engineers rapidly constructed barriers and repair damage, all while under simulated enemy fire. Vale struggled for words. "We expected warriors, but this level of coordination. How do they think so clearly in such confusion?" The demonstration continued. The humans showed not just fighting skills, but their ability to adapt. When faced with a blocked path, they immediately found alternatives. When communication was cut off, they switched to hand signals. When supplies ran low, they improvised. "Enough," Vale finally called out. The field fell silent. The alien commander approached Reed, its massive form casting a shadow over the human. "We knew humans were strong. We knew you were hardy. But this," Vale gestured at the training field, "this is beyond our expectations." Reed noticed something in Vale's voice. Was it fear? "There's something you should see," Reed said, leading the aliens to a nearby building. Inside, screens showed historical footage. Soldiers rescuing civilians from natural disasters. Medics treating wounded in war zones. Peacekeepers protecting refugee camps. "What is this?" Vale asked. "This is what makes us different," Reed explained. "Yes, we can fight. Yes, we're strong. But our greatest military achievements aren't about how many we've killed. They're about how many we've saved." Vale studied the footage in silence. "Your species is confusing. You train so hard for war, yet you celebrate peace. You have such capacity for violence, yet you show. What do you call it?" "Mercy," Reed said. "Compassion. Inefficient traits in warriors. One of Vale's assistants commented. Perhaps, Reed replied, but they're essential traits in soldiers who protect rather than just destroy. As the aliens left the building to continue their assessment, Reed caught fragments of their private conversation through their translators. Too unpredictable. Not what we expected. Could be dangerous. Reed smiled slightly. The aliens had come looking for simple warriors to use as cannon fodder. Instead, they found something that seemed to worry them even more. Soldiers who could think for themselves. Send the full report to command, he heard Vale say. The humans are more capable than we anticipated. Perhaps too capable. Commander Reed sat in the dimly lit data room, his face lit by the glow of multiple screens. What he found in the Galactic military's combat records kept him awake long past midnight. Each new file made his stomach turn more. Sir, his assistant, Lieutenant Brown, entered with another datapad. You need to see this. On the screen was a battle report from the Galactic military's latest campaign. The numbers were staggering. 70,000 soldiers lost to take a single enemy position. The report labeled these losses as within acceptable parameters. Get General Williams, Reed ordered. He needs to see this too. An hour later, Reed stood before an emergency meeting of Earth's Defense Council. The room was tense as he displayed his findings on the main screen. The Galactic military's entire combat doctrine is based on overwhelming numbers, Reed explained, pointing to the statistics. They don't use strategy like we do. They don't value individual soldiers. Their idea of victory is simply throwing more troops at the enemy than the enemy can kill. Surely that can't be right, one council member said. They're centuries ahead of us technologically. Reed changed the display to show another battle record. In their last major war, they lost 8 million soldiers taking a planet that had only 2 million defenders. They considered this a great victory because they had 12 million more soldiers in reserve. The room fell silent. There's more, Reed continued. Remember how they called Earth a death world? Well, I found out why they're so interested in us now. He pulled up another file. Standard Galactic soldiers can't survive in harsh environments. They need perfect conditions to fight. That's why they're losing against this new enemy. General Williams leaned forward. They want to use us as shock troops. Worse, Reed said. They want cannon fodder, troops they can send into the worst conditions while their own forces stay back in safe zones. They're not offering us membership in their military as equals. They're recruiting us as disposable assets. The evidence was clear in the files. Plans already drawn up for human units to be sent into radiation zones, toxic atmospheres, and high-gravity worlds, places where other species couldn't survive. But that's not even the worst part, Reed said quietly. He displayed one final document. This is their contingency plan if Earth refuses to join. The council members read in horrified silence. The Galactic military had plans to declare Earth a strategic resource. If humans wouldn't volunteer as soldiers, they would be conscripted by force. After all, in their view, a death world species was too valuable to waste on peaceful pursuits. They see us as weapons, Williams said, his voice hard. Not allies. A junior officer burst into the room. Sir, the Galactic military ship is powering up weapons. Reed smiled grimly. They must have detected us accessing their classified files. What are our options? The council chairman asked. I have an idea, Reed said. But first, we need to show them why trying to force humans to fight is a very, very bad idea. He pressed a button on his console. Across Earth, hidden defense systems activated. Within seconds, 50 high-powered energy weapons locked onto the alien ship, systems that Earth had been quietly building since first contact, just in case. Open a channel, Reed ordered. Vale's image appeared on the main screen, looking surprised at the human's calm expression. Supreme Commander, Reed said politely. I see you've noticed we've been reviewing your files. We should talk about your real plans for Earth's military. You dare threaten. Vale began. We don't make threats, Reed interrupted. We make choices. Right now, you have a choice. Leave Earth's orbit and return for honest negotiations, or find out why Deathworlders are so good at surviving. The tension held for a long moment. Then the alien ship's weapons powered down. Perhaps, Vale said slowly, we should discuss this further. Good choice, Reed replied. And this time, let's talk about what humans can really offer the galaxy, because we're much more than just soldiers. We're peacekeepers, protectors, and problem solvers. And if you try to use us as cannon fodder, well, you've seen what we can do when we need to. The alien ship retreated to a safe distance, and Reed let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. The real negotiations were about to begin. The United Nations Emergency Response Center buzzed with activity as Commander Reed prepared for his most important presentation yet. After the confrontation over Earth's orbit, the Galactic Council had agreed to send observers to see how humans really handled military operations. Everything ready? Reed asked Lieutenant Brown. Yes, sir. First demonstration begins in 5 minutes. The aliens are in the observation room. Vale and 6 other alien officials sat behind reinforced glass, their environmental suits still in place. They watched as Reed stepped up to the podium. Today, Reed announced, we'll show you what Earth's military really does. Not what you think we do, but what we actually train for. The first screen lit up, showing a massive earthquake hitting a coastal city. Reed pressed a button, and alarms blared through the facility. Within moments, soldiers burst into action. The aliens watched in confusion as military units deployed not with weapons, but with rescue equipment. Helicopters swooped in to pick up stranded civilians. Combat engineers used their skills to stabilize collapsing buildings. Medical teams treated the injured. I don't understand, one alien observer said. Where is the fighting? Watch, Reed replied. The scenario changed. Now it showed a hostile force threatening civilians. The aliens perked up, expecting to finally see combat. Instead, they watched as human soldiers created evacuation corridors, set up protective zones, and used minimal force to deter attackers while protecting innocent lives. Your soldiers, Vale observed, mandibles clicking in confusion. They put themselves at risk to save others. That's their job, Reed explained. Watch this. The next demonstration showed a chemical spill threatening a populated area. Soldiers in protective gear, the same kind they use in toxic battlefields, worked to contain the danger. Their skills at operating in deadly environments weren't being used to kill, but to save. Fascinating. Another alien official noted, they use combat skills for non-combat purposes. The demonstrations continued. Soldiers conducting search and rescue in mountains, desert troops finding lost civilians, naval units saving sinking ships. Each scenario showed how military training could serve life rather than take it. Then came the most impressive display. The screen showed a complex crisis, a natural disaster, hostile forces, and trapped civilians all at once. The aliens leaned forward, watching intently. Human forces moved with practiced precision. Combat teams engaged threats with careful restraint, using just enough force to protect. Engineering units created safe passages through debris. Medical teams treated everyone, both friendly and hostile casualties. This is impossible, Vale stated. How can they focus on saving enemies while still fighting them? Reed smiled. Because that's what makes us different. We don't just train to fight. We train to protect. All life has value, even our enemies. The final demonstration showed the aftermath. Soldiers helping rebuild communities, providing medical care, ensuring safety as people returned home. The aliens watched in silence as warriors transformed into helpers. Your species, Vale said slowly, is not what we thought. We saw your capacity for violence and assumed it was your primary trait. But this is why we can't join your military as simple shock troops, Reed explained. We've learned something in our history of warfare. The strongest soldier isn't the one who can kill the most. It's the one who knows when not to kill at all. He gestured to the screens, now showing multiple rescue operations happening globally. Right now, Earth's military forces are conducting over 200 humanitarian missions worldwide. We respond to disasters, protect the innocent, and yes, fight when we must. But fighting is our last option, not our first. Vale stood, its massive form casting a shadow across the room. We came seeking warriors for our wars. Instead, we found protectors. Reed finished. That's what we are. That's what we train to be. And if you want Earth's help, that's what we'll offer the galaxy. Not mindless soldiers, but trained protectors who understand that true strength lies in saving lives, not taking them. The alien officials huddled together, speaking in their own language. Reed waited patiently. He knew this demonstration had changed everything. The galaxy had wanted Earth's warriors. Instead, they were going to get something they needed much more: Earth's guardians. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council looked like something from a fantasy movie. Massive crystal columns stretched up into darkness, and representatives from 1,000 worlds sat in rising tiers around the central platform. Commander Reed stood calmly at the speaker's podium, feeling the weight of countless alien eyes upon him. "Members of the Council," he began, his voice carried by translators throughout the chamber. "Earth has carefully considered your request for military support. Today, we offer our response, and a proposal of our own." Murmurs rippled through the assembled aliens. Vale sat in the military section, all four arms crossed, watching intently. Reed activated the holographic display. Above him, images of Earth's military forces appeared, not in combat, but in various humanitarian missions around the world. "You asked for warriors," Reed continued. "Instead, we offer you guardians. We propose the creation of the Human Humanitarian Corps." The chamber erupted in confused discussions. One of the council leaders, a floating creature made of shifting colors, moved forward. "Explain this. Corps," it requested. Reed nodded and changed the display. "The HHC will be an independent force, not under galactic military control. Our mission will be threefold: disaster response, civilian protection, and conflict resolution." He showed footage from Earth's natural disasters. "Our soldiers can survive conditions that kill most species. Instead of using this ability for war, we'll use it to save lives on worlds hit by disasters." The next images showed Earth's peacekeeping missions. "We'll protect civilian populations in conflict zones, establish safe corridors, and provide medical care to all sides." "All sides," Vale interrupted. "Even enemies." "Especially enemies," Reed replied. "Sometimes, the best way to end a fight is to show mercy." The alien representatives whispered among themselves. Reed continued, showing more examples of Earth's military conducting rescue operations in extreme conditions. "You called Earth a death world," he said. "You're right. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day. But that didn't just make us strong. It taught us to help each other survive." He brought up new data. "Our initial force will consist of 50,000 trained personnel. Combat teams, yes, but also engineers, medics, and disaster specialists. We'll operate our own ships, using designs we've developed for rescue operations in extreme environments." "And what of the enemy that threatens our worlds?" another council member asked. Reed smiled. "We'll fight if we must. But first, we'll try something you haven't considered. We'll attempt to communicate with them. Maybe they're attacking because they're desperate or scared, or there's been a misunderstanding. Earth's history shows that many conflicts can be resolved through understanding. And if they cannot be reasoned with," Vale asked, "then we'll protect the innocent from them. Not through mass casualties and acceptable losses, but through smart defense and minimal force. We'll show the galaxy a better way to handle conflicts." The chamber fell silent as Reed played his final card. "Additionally, we'll offer training to any species that wishes to learn our methods. We'll teach you how to protect your own people, how to save lives in disasters, how to fight only when necessary. The council leaders huddled together, discussing rapidly in their own languages. Reed waited patiently. He knew this was a radical proposal, asking a galaxy used to solving problems with brute force to consider a more nuanced approach. Finally, the lead council member spoke. "This is unprecedented. You refuse our military, yet offer something perhaps more valuable. But tell us, Commander Reed, why choose this path?" Reed looked around the chamber, meeting alien gazes steadily. "Because the strongest person in any room isn't the one who can destroy the most. It's the one who can protect the most. Earth's military power doesn't come from our ability to deal death. It comes from our commitment to preserve life." He gestured to the images still floating above. "We are Deathworlders, yes. We're stronger, tougher, and more resilient than most species. But we choose to use that strength to protect rather than destroy. That's not weakness. That's the highest form of strength there is." The chamber erupted in discussion again, but Reed noticed something important. Many of the younger species representatives were nodding in agreement. Change was coming to the galaxy, whether the old guard liked it or not. The Grand Council chamber had been in constant debate for 3 days. Commander Reed watched from a waiting area as alien representatives argued about Earth's proposal. Through the transparent walls, he could see various species taking sides, some supporting the traditional galactic military approach, others fascinated by the human way. Vale entered the room, its massive form moving with unusual hesitation. "Commander, there has been an incident." Reed straightened immediately. "What kind of incident?" "The enemy we spoke of. They've attacked another world. But this time, something was different." Vale activated a small hologram projector. "Watch." The footage showed an alien city under attack. But unlike previous battles, this assault seemed desperate rather than aggressive. The enemy ships were damaged, their movements erratic. "They're running from something," Reed observed. "Those aren't attack formations, they're refugee patterns." Vale's mandibles clicked in surprise. "How can you know this?" "Because we've seen it before on Earth. When people flee war zones, they move like that. Desperate, disorganized, dangerous only because they're scared." A young alien officer burst into the room. "Supreme Commander Vale, the Council requests both of you immediately." In the chamber, the footage was playing on the main screens. The Council leaders looked troubled as Reed and Vale entered. "Commander Reed," the lead Council member spoke, "your species claims expertise in understanding conflict. What do you make of this?" Reed studied the footage carefully. "These aren't invaders. They're refugees. Look at their ships. The damage isn't from weapons. It's from some kind of environmental effect. They're not attacking worlds. They're trying to find somewhere to land, somewhere to survive." "Impossible," an older council member scoffed. "They've destroyed 3 worlds." "No," Reed corrected, zooming in on the footage. "They've damaged worlds in panic. There's a difference. Look at their weapon usage. It's defensive, creating space to land rather than trying to conquer." The chamber erupted in argument again. Some council members demanded immediate military action. Others, mostly younger species, called for investigation. "We can prove it," Reed said firmly. "Let the Humanitarian Corps make first contact." "You would risk your people?" Vale asked. "To prevent an unnecessary war?" "Yes." Reed displayed his own data. "We've analyzed their flight patterns. They're coming from a region of space affected by a dying star. Their worlds are probably becoming uninhabitable." The council leaders huddled together, discussing intensely. Finally, they turned to face the chamber. "We face a choice," the lead member announced. "Continue with traditional military response, or attempt this human approach." Vale stepped forward. "The galactic military has always protected our worlds through force. But perhaps there are times when force is not the answer." The chamber fell silent. Vale, the strongest advocate for military action, was now suggesting a different path. "Commander Reed," Vale continued, If we support your humanitarian core proposal, how would you handle this situation? Reed activated the main display. First, we establish their intentions. We send ships equipped for rescue operations, not just combat. We attempt communication. If they're refugees, we help them find safe worlds to settle. There are plenty of uninhabited planets in safe zones. And if they refuse peaceful contact? Another council member asked. Then we contain them without destroying them. We use our Deathworlder abilities to operate in the harsh conditions they're creating, but to protect and redirect rather than attack. Sometimes the best way to stop a fight is to show there doesn't need to be one. The council chamber buzzed with discussion. Younger species were openly supporting the human approach, while older ones struggled with centuries of military tradition. We must decide, the lead council member announced. Traditional military response, or this new human way. Reed watched as the vote began. Across the chamber, representatives made their choices. It was close, very close. But as the final votes came in, he saw something remarkable. The galaxy was choosing change. The lead council member stood. By a narrow margin, the council supports the human proposal. The human humanitarian corps is authorized to make first contact with the approaching forces. As the chamber erupted in excited discussion, Reed caught Vale's eye. The alien commander gave what might have been a smile. "Now, Commander," Vale said, "show us this better way of yours." 1 year later, Commander Reed stood at the same podium in the Galactic Council chamber, but everything else had changed. The room was packed with representatives from every known species, including the newest members of the galactic community. The refugees they had once thought were invaders. The Human Humanitarian Corps marks its first year of operations. Reed began, pride evident in his voice. "I present our results." The holographic display came to life, showing scenes from the past year. The first images showed HFY ships making peaceful contact with the refugee fleet. The enemy turned out to be the survivors of 3 worlds destroyed by their son's early death. "Instead of a war, we found an opportunity to help," Reed continued. "Thanks to our ability to operate in harsh conditions, HFY teams helped stabilize their failing ships and evacuate over 2 million refugees." The next images showed human teams working alongside alien engineers to terraform uninhabited worlds, creating new homes for the displaced population. Vale, now serving as the liaison between the galactic military and the HFY, stepped forward. "In 1 year, the humans have changed how we approach galactic emergencies. Their methods have reduced civilian casualties by 90% in conflict zones." The display showed more scenes. Human teams teaching other species their rescue techniques, joint operations between former enemies, new ships designed for rescue rather than combat. But most importantly, Reed said, "We've started something new. 20 species have now established their own humanitarian corps, trained by humans. The galaxy is learning their strength in saving lives, not just taking them." An elder council member raised an appendage. "And what of the cost? Surely this approach requires more resources than traditional military action." Reed smiled and brought up the financial data. Actually, the total cost of relocating and rehabilitating the refugees was less than 10% of what a military campaign would have cost. Saving lives isn't just more effective, it's more efficient. The chamber filled with appreciative murmurs. Even the oldest, most traditional species couldn't argue with those numbers. "There's more," Reed continued. "Remember how you called Earth a death world? Well, we've taught other species how to survive in harsh conditions, not for war, but for rescue. Last month, a team of formerly soft world species saved an entire colony on a volcanic planet. They used our techniques, our training, but found their own strength." The displays showed the rescue operation. Aliens using human methods but adapting them to their own unique abilities. The success rate was impressive. Vale stepped forward again. "The galactic military still stands ready to defend our worlds. But now we have new options. The Human Humanitarian Corps has shown us that sometimes the strongest response isn't to fight. Reed nodded to his assistant, who brought up the final statistics. In our first year, 3 million lives saved, 15 new worlds prepared for refugee settlement, 40 major disasters contained, and 0, I repeat, 0, casualties in conflict resolution. The chamber erupted in applause, or whatever passed for applause among the various species. Even the most hardcore military supporters couldn't deny the results. But our greatest achievement, Reed said as the chamber quieted, isn't in these numbers. It's in what we've started. Across the galaxy, species are learning that being strong doesn't mean you have to be cruel. Being tough doesn't mean you have to fight. And coming from a death world doesn't mean you have to bring death. He gestured to the gathered representatives. A year ago, you asked Earth to send warriors to die in your wars. We offered something better. We offered to teach the galaxy how to live. The final images showed the newest class of humanitarian corps trainees, dozens of species learning together, preparing to help rather than harm. This is why Deathworlders rejected your military call, Reed concluded. Not because we were afraid to fight, but because we knew how to do something more important. We knew how to protect, how to save, how to turn the very things that made us dangerous into tools for peace. As the chamber filled with approving sounds, Reed caught Vale's eye. The alien commander gave the human gesture of a thumbs up, something it had learned over the past year. The galaxy had wanted Earth's warriors. Instead, they got Earth's heart. And somehow, that had turned out to be exactly what they needed.